distance. Oh,
Sorry, I just started. I just remembered. Go ahead, Jeff.
that's all good.
Yeah.
So there are, you have to consider that this is quite a ways away. You can actually see some of the roads that the bike course goes on. It goes around here and it comes up and it ends up on this highway. Anyways, the other thing to know is that this is Snow Canyon, and we will spend some time talking about Snow Canyon because that's sort of the thing that everybody knows about. And we'll discuss the elements of getting your stuff to here and then how you're going to manage riding in Snow Canyon. So as you know, the changes for the race week have been fluid and things may continue to change. But as far as we know right now, instead of having a 2-day event, because of the number of athletes who can't make it, because of international restrictions on travel, because of people deferring out for various reasons, they have had to combine the race into a 1-day event. Clearly not something they wanted to do, but something they really had no choice. I think to run an event with, I'm guessing they probably were only going to be looking at, 800 or 900 women and then maybe 1,200 to 1,400 men. That's purely my speculation. To do that over 2 days would have been a huge endeavor, and to close the roads and do all of that would have been really difficult. So they made the difficult decision to have to put it all together on 1 day. I can tell you, having gone to Worlds many times now, that, for the women, definitely try to qualify again, because having your own race is like a really nice thing. And so I would say that, this is not a deal breaker. Like, it's still a great event and you're going to have a wonderful time, but there's no question that you've all done 70.3s with men on the course. It's not like it's like a terrible thing in any way, but having your own day is a really nice thing. And I know many women who race at a very high level, at Juliet's level, and they've all told me that they really enjoyed that experience. So, not to take away anything from this experience, it's going to be a great day. Just as a woman, know that racing it on your own is something pretty special. And I would definitely encourage you to try and get back to experience that in the future. And fortunately, it will be in St. George again next year. And, there are always a lot of women's slots through Women for Tri and things like that. And so getting back there, if it's possible, I would definitely try and do so. Pay attention to the athlete check-ins, read the athlete guide. We're going to come back to the athlete guide frequently. Make sure that you do get checked in by the latest Friday morning. Bike and gear bag check-in are going to be specifically on Friday. So you need to get your gear bag checked in at T2, which is downtown, at the Tabernacle, which we'll show you on a map in a little bit. And then you need to get your bike out to Sand Hollow Reservoir. Now, if you've got a car, you're set. If you went with Tri-Bike Transport was originally going to offer a kind of valet thing where they were going to bring people's bikes, but unfortunately they cannot do that. I'm not sure what changed, but they sent out an email earlier this week saying they've had to scrap that. So if you signed up for that, A, make sure you get a refund, and B, you're going to have to find an alternative way of getting your bike out there. In the spring, they did not offer shuttles either. So most people just managed to get their bikes out there somehow. I'm not sure how. You cannot ride out there. It's too far. So definitely you're going to want to find someone with a car if you don't have one yourself, and make sure you do that. One of the things you need.
Jeff, did Tri-Bike Transport say where the bikes will be?
Yeah, the bikes are literally like spitting distance from the central area downtown. Okay. I will show you when we get to that map. If you're standing at the M. Sculpture, which we will show you, it is southeast of that by about a block. So it's very, very central, very easy to find. They've got a nice layout there, and they're as always very helpful.
The whole sort of Ironman Village area at this event is very compacted, which includes T2, the finish line, athlete bag pickup, registration, the expo, everything is within like 2 or 3 blocks. With the shuttle pickup, it's all right there in the center of town, so you can't get lost in there.
Okay.
Yep. One of the things you need to know about this race, which may be different from races you've participated in the past, is that you have to have a clean transition in T1. So no shoes on your pedals, everything gets packed into your gear bag and submitted the day before. And Juliet's going to talk about that a little bit later. Run bag check-in, as I mentioned, is downtown. You could do run bag first, you could do run bag second, doesn't matter. And again, read the athlete guide. So Juliet, do you want to talk about a couple of things that you came across in the athlete guide?
Right. So I reread the athlete guide, or I read the athlete guide because it just came out. And this is a little bit different for those of us who haven't been to Worlds before, because in a typical 70.3, you put your bike in the day before, but you bring all the rest of your bike stuff the next day, including your helmet, right? But according to the athlete guide and also Jeff's experience, you need to actually bring your helmet, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Jeff, you bring your helmet the night before and you check it in, or the day before, and you check it in along with your bike. So that
the way it works is you're going to walk into transition holding your bike in one hand, your gear bag in the other hand, and your helmet on your head. And your helmet has to be clipped. And this is how they've done it in the European races I did. I did Austria and Nice, and I did Australia, and they were very big on checking your strap to make sure that you didn't have too much room there. When I did Chattanooga, I honestly, I can't remember if it was as strict, but I assume they're going to do the same thing. So just be prepared to wear your helmet, have your shoes and everything else you want, except for nutrition. Nutrition you can bring morning of. Go ahead, Juliet. Sorry.
Any questions about that? Because that's a little bit different from other 70.3s where you bring everything besides your bike in the morning. Any questions about that?
They did the exact same thing at 70.3 Hawaii this year. This is a completely clean transition. Everything had to be checked in the day before.
Yeah, and they are doing that in more and more races. So it's not that unusual. They do it at full Ironmans. It's often the same thing.
Now, with regard to T2, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You're not allowed to have your shoes clipped onto your bike overnight then?
No shoes clipped on pedals at all. Your shoes.
What about for Jeff? What about for pros though?
The pros, I don't know. That's never impacted me. So
yeah, Brennan, you need to double check that, because I think the pros let pros clip their shoes on their bike.
Yeah, and normally they let us check in the bikes the morning of. As well.
I can find out for you right now. I'll find out for you right now. I'll text her.
Okay. Lexa, did you have a question? Or Lexa Pro?
I do. Yes. Hi. Yeah, I know. Yes, it's Lexa. Hi, everybody. What about pumping our tires that morning, or do we have to pump the tires the day before and that's it?
As always, there's pumps available. You can bring a pump in the morning. You have access to your bike. You have access to your bike in order to bring nutrition, pump the tires, things like that. You just don't have access to that bag.
But can we leave things there? If you said it's a clean transition, can we leave the pump there, or we have to take it back out?
If you leave the pump there, you will probably lose the pump, because in the morning you have your morning clothes bag. So all the clothes that you don't want to race in, that you go in the morning, and you will want warm clothes because it's a desert climate and it's cold, right? So in the morning of the race, you put your morning clothes in the morning clothes bag and you drop it in a truck on the way walking down to the water. But they will not take pumps. They will only take things that fit inside that bag. That is explicitly said in the athlete guide.
Okay, thank you.
So you might want to just pump your tires the night before, and then if you really feel anxious about it the next morning, you can pump them. You can find one of the tech pumps the next morning. There's just often a line for those. That's the downside for that. Jeff, do you want to answer? Do you want to add anything to the tire pumping question? This is always a question that comes up.
No, I mean, I always have a travel pump. I have a really small pump that fits into my morning clothes bag. So I bring that. My wife is actually coming this year, so I'll be able to just give something to her. No, I actually purchased a very small pump for exactly that reason.
So we'll all let you know what Jeff Sankoff's number is, and you can go find him. on race day morning.
Right.
Okay, so one thing about race week logistics for transition 2, you do put all of your, because it's a 2 transition race, you do put all of your gear into that run bag, and you take it and you check it in the day before. So you're checking in at 2 different transitions, right? Transition 1 and transition 2. At 70.3 St. George in May, and Sealy probably remembers this too, you had access to transition 2 in the morning, because that's where the shuttle buses left from. So if you wanted to leave your shoes and your race belts and your cap or whatever else you have in the bag overnight, you could do that. And then on race day morning, you can lay it out, the way you like it, stick your nutrition in your shoes, etc., or however you do it. It did not say in the athlete's guide whether you would have access to T2 or not on race day morning. So that would be something that I plan to ask at registration. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jeff?
In the past, we didn't. So you kind of had to leave everything there. The only thing
what
that
about
I was able
nutrition?
to, yeah, nutrition either. I just left it all there.
Okay.
Now, you do in this race have to wear a race belt on the bike. So just know that this is unlike most races where you don't need to have a number on for the bike. This one you do. And again, that comes from Europe, because the Europeans, and I think the Australians as well, mandate wearing race bibs still for the bike course. And so they carry that over into Worlds. And Juliet's going to comment on something also specific to the race number.
Yeah, having combed through the athlete guide earlier this afternoon, in the referee section, it says you have to wear that race bib on the bike. But in the athlete guide, it doesn't say that. It just says you have to have
I'm sure they'll clarify it, and because I will tell you that in Chattanooga we didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed several times in the athlete guide there were references to Nice, and so I'm wondering if that was a cut and paste mistake from Nice, because yeah, I've raced Worlds in the US and never have had that, and in the athlete guide it said they're following USA Triathlon rules.
Right.
So it's definitely a question, but
yeah, I think it's worth asking when you get there. Obviously, it'd be nice to just be able to pick up that race belt in T2. And it's not entirely clear, because in the athlete guide, it just says you have to have the 2 stickers on your bike and the sticker on your helmet. So,
and then the other thing that comes straight from Nice is the need to fix your number 3 times. So in Nice, you had to fix your number 3 times. You couldn't, like, all race belts have 2 little holes and the little cords that stick through. So everybody in Nice was scrambling to find safety pins so that they could pin the number 1 more time onto their race belt, and that satisfied everybody. That was fine. That's all you needed to do. So just bring a safety pin just in case they actually do that. Yeah, I don't know if they'll do that.
Yeah, you're right, Sealy. In the officials or the referee section of the athlete guide, it looked like it was maybe a copy paste from previous races. So. So we don't have all the answers. We're going to have to find out some of this stuff in the race briefing, and when we get there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
So go ahead, Juliet.
So race week events, all of this is in the athlete guide or on the schedule. There's a number of events that make it different from a typical 70.3 race. There's a fun run on Thursday. There'll be a race briefing at 8 p.m., which I think is really late, but 8 p.m. on Thursday night. Right now, you have to go to the Dixie Convention Center. I cannot imagine with COVID, they're going to make us all be in the Dixie Convention Center. So, but there isn't anything about a virtual briefing yet. I looked through everything. And so keep an eye out for that. I've got to believe there will be a virtual briefing. Of course, they also have them in several different languages as well. But as of right now, the race briefing is 8 p.m. at the Dixie Convention Center on Thursday, and it's in person. There's this welcome banquet. It's still on the schedule right now from 6 to 8, which also makes it different from other races in terms of there is a banquet. Iron Kids, if anyone's traveling with children or you have friends coming who have children, fun event, it's a little fun run on Friday morning. You do have to check in on Thursday. There's an expo every day. I'm sure your coaches will all tell you, walk through the expo once and take a look, and then you're done. Like, you don't need to go over and over again. It's exhausting. It causes stress. just go ahead and, take a look once, and that's all you need to do. So, and, Jeff put this bullet in, just make sure every day you're really controlling your energy output. And you'll hear this from your individual coaches as well. Just, you need to spend a lot of time off your feet. Can be very stressful being around other athletes. Control your energy. Make sure you're taking a lot of time off your feet in the nice, cool, air-conditioned place that you're staying, because it's going to be hot. So anything else? I think that's it for that slide. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
no, Celie and Denise totally agree. I mean, I'm not planning to go to a banquet with 1,000 people. There's just no way. So
yeah,
I'll be
I went to
curious
the
see.
banquet. I went to the banquet in Nice. It was crazy. I mean, I didn't eat there. I mean, who's going to eat at a banquet when you're in Nice and you can get such good French food, right? But anyway, I mean, in Utah, not great French food.
Not
but
so much, but it's a
Exactly,
different
yeah.
condition.
Here in France, you can find way better food options.
yeah. All right. So it's race day now. We've made it. We're there. It's good to go. So the big thing is getting to Sand Hollow. So for those of us who were there in the spring, the shuttle is an excellent option. It leaves frequently from downtown. And amazingly, there is so much free parking in the area. I was worried that when I showed up early in the morning that I would have a hard time parking and I would have to walk like miles to get to the shuttles. But in the end, there's so much parking around that I parked like, I think, a few hundred meters from where the shuttles were. And that worked out really well for both before and after. Now, the big thing is, we'll show you the maps afterwards, but you really want to be sure you park south or east of the event. You can park west, but you really stay south of the run course because you want to be able to get out of there afterwards. And the run course will obviously be open for quite a while, and so you those streets are going to be blocked, and you just want to be sure that you can get out. So depending on where you're staying, just where you're coming from, just make sure you plan your entry and exit, knowing full well that course is going to be blocking streets. The shuttle is free. It's available to spectators as well. In May, they talked a lot about how everybody was going to need a mask. It's Utah. They didn't enforce it. I brought N95 mask to wear on the bus. They talked about keeping the windows open. They didn't do that. So I would just assume you're on your own, surrounded by people from Texas who don't, vaccinate, and therefore I'm sorry, I'm being political. I'm an emergency physician.
Easy does it.
I'm sorry, I'm an emergency physician. It's really hard for me to not get, riled up. So just assume that there's somebody on your bus with COVID. Be prepared, wear a mask, and you'll be fine. You can drive. If you drive, you can't get to the actual place where we swim. What they will do is they will stop you with a parking lot about a mile away. And a lot of people do that. Like I said, I'm going with my wife, and, if she wanted to have her car, she could drive us both. And then we would have to walk about a mile to get there, which is not a huge deal, but I don't think I want to do that. So we'll likely take the shuttle, and then she can just hop on the shuttle to get back. They run frequently. They're very quick and comfortable, and it was really fun. Just beware, you're in the desert, and so temperatures in the morning can be cool and it warms up quickly. So just, be like Shrek, lots of layers, and bring your morning clothes bag that you will drop off as you head to the swim, that you just fill with your pump and your sweatshirt and whatever else you're wearing in that time frame.
Jeff, were they pretty good about having lots of shuttles so that you didn't have to wait
incredible.
a long time or anything
Rob,
like that?
it was amazing. I showed up at, I don't even remember what time, and there were shuttles down the street. They were really efficient at filling them. They just kept rolling out of there. The ride to the start was, I think, 20 minutes, and it was amazingly efficient. I can't speak to the coming back for spectators, but I have to imagine it was just as good. The only thing is once the race is started, the bikers are on the road out of Sand Hollow, so they probably have to wait until all the bikers have left before they start the shuttles with spectators coming back. That's my guess. All right, on to the swim.
Okay. Unlike in May, where it was so butt cold in the water, it actually looks like it's already not wetsuit legal. So make sure if you just take everything, take your wetsuit, take a speed suit if you've got it, take everything. Let's go back to the picture for a second, Jeff, if you don't mind. Thanks. We'll just walk through the picture first. So the way they did it in May, and I think they'll do it very, very similarly, is you have to go out around the bottom side. Thank you. Bottom side of transition, up the left side, and then around the top. And then they are seating you. Well, in May they did it by speed, but they're doing it with age by age group here. They will put you in your age groups along that right-hand side of the course. And so it's just a great big funnel. Again, you can wear your, they will either suggest, require, whatever, wear a mask, and there's a garbage can right as you enter the water where you can chuck your mask at the very last minute. Lots of people standing in there, no social distancing. It's Utah. Just get in your age group, think about where you might want to be in terms of your relative speed to other men or women your age. The swim is very, very straightforward. You're going basically straight out. Now, when you turn that first corner, at least in May, and you should check it when you get in the water and do your practice swim. You're a little bit blinded when you turn that corner, that first right hand, the first red buoy. And the other thing that surprised a lot of athletes in May, and they'll probably have it again, is there's this great big inflatable arch right at the halfway point between those two red buoys. And it's a chip timer. It's kind of cool. When you swim underneath it, anyone who's tracking you knows you're halfway through the swim. But a lot of swimmers stopped dead and looked at this thing and were like, what the heck is that thing? So just expect that it's going to be there. Just swim underneath it with everybody else and go ahead and make the turn and come home.
They had that at Lake Placid, and there were two arches, and it didn't matter which one you went under.
It doesn't, as long as you go through. It's pretty obvious when it's like looming above you, you're supposed to go through it, not around it. So, but other than that, the swim is fairly straightforward. You can get in the water and swim on Wednesday and Thursday morning. I think it's from 7 to 10. And so we would all encourage you to go down and get in the water, feel the temperature, take a look at the course, etc. If you're not during those two windows, you can still swim at Sand Hollow. You just can't swim on the course. That's what the athlete's guide says. So then when you come out,
except for Brennan, there's no warm-up swim.
Except for Brennan, there's no warm-up swim. Right, exactly. When you come up, the transition's right there. Unlike any other triathlon you'll ever been in, it's actually not a huge uphill run to T1, which is great. The rest is a very typical transition, except that because it's a 2 transition race, you do need to put your wetsuit and cap and everything else inside that bike bag so that it gets transported back to the finish area so that you can pick up your morning clothes bag and your bike bag, which now has your wetsuit in it at the end of the race. That's how your stuff gets back. So if it doesn't make it inside the bag, it's not coming back. Okay. So it's something to think about. Okay. Now go to the next slide. Thanks. Jeff.
Hey, Juliet, there's been some chatter about swimmer's itch. Is that just a rumor?
Maybe, Rob. I've swam in lakes all growing up in New England that had duck itch. And what are you going to do? Not swim? Don't worry about it. It won't affect your race. You might get itchy like that evening or the next day. It'll go away in a day or so.
Okay.
I heard about that. And I always hear about that. And I have to say, like, I'm going to say something and now it's going to affect me. I feel like it's individual people who seem to get it, and it's not like the huge group of people that get it. So I don't know. It's hard to know what to make.
There's a lot of chatter about put Vaseline on, put this on, put that on, but just don't worry about it. It's an inconvenience. It's not a day sinker.
Got it.
So, okay. We did this self-seated by age group. First age group wave is 7:25. Brennan, obviously you go first, which is probably 7:05 or something like that. It's in the athlete guide. We're very close. Didn't you say it was 81 or something already, Jeff?
Yeah, it was 81 last I checked, and it's not getting cooler yet in St. George. Given how long it takes a body of water to cool, Ironman will always find a way to somehow make it wetsuit legal. So,
right. Yeah, so go prepared for anything. Take your long sleeve, take your shorty, take your swim skin if you've got one. You know, be prepared for everything, and just, you know, mentally know that everybody else is in exactly the same position. So, you know, it is what it is. Consider sleeveless wetsuit. Sighting is really not an issue, except there's a little bit of sun when you come around that corner, but it's not as bad as a lot of races. We talked about the chipped arch, and the exit is straightforward. So I think that's pretty much it for the swim. It's just not very complicated on this one. Any questions about the swim? Okay.
All right. Well, let's talk about the bike. So the bike in St. George is spectacular. It's just a fantastic bike course. And I love how Ironman puts these little elevation profiles that look nothing like what the elevation profile actually looks like. So here's my elevation profile from Strava from May, which is the same course. And you can see that it's a little more lumpy and probably more realistic to what you can expect. So you're going to come out of Sand Hollow. It's got a little bit of a gradual climb. This is really nothing. It kind of opens up your legs. It's nice and flat. This little section here is the out and back right here. So this out and back is really nothing to write home about. And then once you make this turn onto this road, it is a nice, fast downhill, really nice. And then you're going to hit your first hill. So the first hill is kind of a grind up State Street, but it is not terribly steep. Depending on how strong a cyclist you are, at the time I did this, I had a 2x derailleur on the front, and so I did this in the big ring. But you know, even if you go in the small ring, you're not going to need a particularly small gear. It's not terribly difficult. Then you get into kind of like some rollers, nothing terribly exciting. The second hill comes once you finish this out and back section. You're going to go actually, after you've done this climb, there's a downhill here, and then you make a right turn, and then you do this out and back, and then you're going to climb up here into a neighborhood, which is a shorter hill, but it's a little bit punchier, and it's a good time because it comes at around the halfway point of the course, and it's nice because you get to stand and you can kind of like, you know, turn your way up that hill, and it's really, again, it's short, it's not terribly difficult. I will say on the backside here, when you come down, it's a pretty fast, it's short again, but it's a fast little downhill, and you're on kind of like winding streets. So just, it's not dangerous in any sense, but it's not as open as some other downhills on the course. So just something to be aware of. And then the third downhill takes place on the Red Hills Parkway. The third uphill takes place on the Red Hills Parkway. And this one is definitely, you feel it. It comes about 2/3 of the way through the course. It's beautiful because you're now in the Red Hills. This is actually on the run course itself. And again, it only takes a couple of minutes to do, but you definitely feel it at that part of the course. And then after that, you have a nice downhill, which leads you to what everybody has talked about, and that is Snow Canyon. So I want to just focus on Snow Canyon for a second. For those of you who have heard much about it and don't know what to expect, it's really not a big deal. So this is the segment of Snow Canyon. It is 4 miles. You're going to see as you turn onto I'm just going to go back for a second. Going on Snow Canyon Parkway, which is this beautiful road that just kind of goes around a couple of roundabouts. And then you're going to make a right-hand turn onto Snow Canyon Drive. And as you ride up Snow Canyon Drive, it begins to kind of start to incline up, but it's like 1%, 2%, nothing dramatic. And then you're going to pass an entrance gate for Snow Canyon State Park. When you pass that entrance gate, you have 4 miles to the top of Snow Canyon. That's it. So it is a 4-mile climb. And the average gradient on that 4-mile climb is, I think it's under 5%. And the reason for that is because the first 2 miles are really, really benign. Nothing happens in that first 2 miles. The second 2 miles, it definitely rears up. Somebody's asking about disc wheel. You'll see I rode a disc wheel. There's no reason not to ride a disc wheel. There's one significant climb. Honestly, this is a typical course, and I would definitely encourage, if you feel comfortable with a disc wheel, you should ride a disc wheel. There's no reason not to. anyway, so it's 4 miles. The last 2 miles, there are some pitches that get up to 8 or 9%. But what I want to show you, and the reason I kept all this data here for you, is because you can see the way to handle Snow Canyon is just to be even. This is my power. My power was even the whole way through. And that's my cadence. So I just got myself into an easy gear, spun my way up Snow Canyon, and I think it took me all of 16, 17 minutes. I've done here, it took me 19 minutes, 32 seconds to go 6.23 kilometers, which is just over 4 miles, and it's 4.2% average. So I've done this climb. I think my PR up this climb is about 16 minutes, but that was when I was just doing this and I wasn't doing a half marathon after. So the point is, be nice and steady. Don't hit your FTP. Just keep yourself at a nice, easy gear, spin your way up at a nice, easy cadence. The heart rate, just goes up a little bit. It's really not a big deal. I promise you, lots of people will be going slower than you. You'll be passing people. And the most important thing about Snow Canyon is it looks like that. So you will be absolutely enthralled by what a beautiful place it is. And yes, you'll notice that it's a little difficult, but I promise you, it is so beautiful. You won't be able to get the smile off your face, even as I was climbing and I was chatting with people just going, holy crap, this is so beautiful. So there's no cars. There are a few speed bumps at the beginning and at the end. So but you're not going fast enough that it makes a big deal.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that, Jeff, that's a perfect description, is one of my athletes described the ride up Snow Canyon as everything just kind of slows down and gets quiet, because you've been going through neighborhoods and there's cars, and all of a sudden you're in Snow Canyon and there's no cars. It's just you and the other cyclists. That's it. There's no spectators up there, really, maybe a couple, but they had to really schlep to get there. And it's beautiful. It's quiet. And that when you get to the top, that's pretty much the end of the race. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I'll let you continue.
Yeah, it's a 10-mile descent from there. Now you do have to know. Okay, so there's 2 turnarounds on the course. I showed you both of them. They're wide. They're super easy. One of them is as you're going around Sand Hollow. There's an out and back section with the turnaround, super easy. The other one, just so you know, the second turnaround, which I showed you, is before the sort of a second hill you have to climb. That turnaround is on a bit of a hill. So what's going to happen is you're going to be climbing up a little bit of a grade, and then the turnaround's at the top. So just beware that, you'll be in kind of an easy gear. You'll go around the turnaround, then you're going to be going downhill fast. So it's just the gearing. Snow Canyon, it's really 4 miles gate to gate. It's 5 miles if you consider just a little bit of the climb before. It's 1,000 feet. And then after the top of Snow Canyon, you are screaming downhill. It's 10 miles. It will take you about 20 minutes to get down there. I will tell you, it is one of the most exciting, easy downhills, because the road is in May, we had a whole lane plus a very wide shoulder. I imagine it'll be the same. They might have the whole road closed for us, which would be great. But it's very wide. There are no sharp corners. You have great sight lines the whole way through. It is just fantastic. The one thing I will say is that it is susceptible to crosswinds. So just hold on. Don't especially if you I ride an 808 on the front. And so, sometimes I'll get a gust of a crosswind, and it definitely sort of, catches me by surprise. So just make sure that, you aren't sleeping. But if you can pedal, if you're not spun out, then definitely keep pedaling. It'll keep your legs fresh, get the blood going, wash out any lactate that you might have built up going up Snow Canyon. The other thing to consider is make sure that you get in any hydration and nutrition at the top of the climb, because as you sort of come to the top of Snow Canyon and you'll make a right-hand turn, the gradient drops dramatically. It drops to about 2%. You'll see the gate, which is the signal that you're about to make the turn onto the downhill. Get food and drink in there, because once you're on the downhill, you will not be able to eat or drink. You're going too fast. So as I said, lots of room. Yep.
No, the only thing I was going to add is when I was nervous in May a little bit about whether or not I'd be able to stay in Arrow all the way down that descent. because of the wind and, and everything else. And it turns out I was totally capable of. I would absolutely, as Jeff said, not want to eat or drink on that downhill, but you absolutely can stay in aero all the way down. You can pedal all the way down to keep your legs going. So it's actually kind of a perfect pitch in many ways, right?
Yeah.
So it's
yeah,
fun.
I agree. And look, it depends on how comfortable you are as a descender. I mean, I hit 40 something miles an hour, and I recognize not everybody's going to be comfortable with that, except for Brendan. But if you're not comfortable hitting those kinds of speeds, then it's very easy to just sit up and let the wind slow you down a little bit, but keep pedaling, because as long as you're pedaling, you're just getting the blood flow to your legs, which is really important. One thing I do want to warn you about, because I almost came to disaster. As you come back into town, it is fast, and you are going to come roaring back into town. You're going to come down Main Street, which has quite a pitch. You go around one roundabout, and then you're going to come to the second roundabout, which has the big MDOT sculpture in it, and you have to make a hard right turn. And the road there, for whatever reason, is slick. And I almost totally bit it right there. So just be careful as you're coming back into town. You go around the first roundabout, you'll see the MDOT sculpture start slowing down, because I hit that second roundabout going over like 30 miles an hour and almost crashed. So just be aware. Just make sure you slow down once you get onto Main Street, and you'll be fine. It's really not a big deal. You're going to make that right-hand turn. They are handling this like a full Ironman. You're going to hand your bike off. You're not going to have to rack your bike. So that's kind of, and bumpy, as Celie says. Yes. So you're great. If you're the type of person who can get your feet out of your shoes, then you can just hand your bike off with your shoes. If not, that's fine. Just keep your shoes with you. You'll trot into T2, where you'll pick up your run gear bag and off you go. But it looks like, at least from the athlete guide, that you're going to be handing your bike off. Any questions on the bike before?
The one, so Celia brings up the good point about road surface. So for the most part, the whole course has great road surface. And in fact, when you first come out of Sand Hollow, it's a brand new road, and it's fantastic. The one exception, and Jeff, I don't know if you can go back to the map, 2 slides back. Is that possible?
Yep.
There's one section where the road surface is kind of crappy, and it was a descent. And I want to say it was called Washington Drive. Do you remember this, Jeff or Celie? It was definitely a descent.
Washington Parkway.
Yeah, Washington Parkway.
That is not a good. Yeah, that is not a great road surface. They did also didn't do a good job of sweeping it, and it's got a lot of what is that stuff they put in to seal the cracks? Seal? But yeah,
like the slurry.
Yeah. So just, you are going pretty. That is the one place on the bike course that I found a little bit dicey on the descent, and I would consider myself a pretty good descender, because it is.
Yeah, I agree.
The road surface is a bit iffy. There's a lot of people around you. You have to watch out for people. So just keep your head up there, on the descent. The rest of the road surface, I would say, is either classic Western chip seal or great new paving, and it's fine.
The other thing I would say is, just on the descent out of Snow Canyon, we have the shoulder and the first lane at least. I don't know if they're going to give us the whole right side of the road, but there is a rumble strip. So if you're moving between the shoulder and the lane, just be aware there's a rumble strip there.
Is that an underpass?
Okay.
Descent or something like that? Or are you crossing over it? Or is there some crossover on the course?
I'm sorry. Oh, this here?
Yeah.
There's an overpass.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So what happens is when you're coming down Red Hills Parkway, you'll cross under, and when you come this way, you cross over.
Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed.
Good question. Yeah. Okay. We have to go through all the arrows to get to the next slide. All right, let's move on to the run.
There's an easier way to do this, but
Okay, here we go. Zoop. All right. So this is an overview of the run. The run is a little bit different from May. In May, it was a kind of convoluted out and back with 2 tails. It was actually quite difficult to scope out. But this one is 2 loops. So when you first come out of transition, you go up a little bit of a hill, which is a little bit of an insult, and then you spend about a mile or so heading out on it's a false flat, essentially. So it is uphill a bit, okay? So just know that. And that's called, is it called Diagonal? I think it's Diagonal Street. And that's that long straight stretch, and then you pop onto a bike path for a little while. It's very clearly marked. There'll be no problem about where to go. And then at mile 3, you hit this hill. Thank you. And it's hot, and the whole run is exposed. Just expect this. It feels like a lot of concrete. And so just get your legs under you for that first 2 miles when it's kind of this nice straight. It is, as I said, it's a bit of a false flat, but you can still get your legs moving. And just know that at both 3 miles and at about 9 miles, because it's 2 loops, you're going to hit this hill, right? So start kind of wrapping your mind around it now. I know that when I hit it and you know, Julie and Jeff, Celie and Jeff, you can share your own experiences. When I hit it, I was just hating everything. I was hating, you know, my family, my dog, God, my life, everything, right? but you know, hang in there, know that things turn around, because by mile 4, because you then have a little bit of a descent, there's an aid station, you can take on some nutrition, you can take on some water, etc. You know, just know things are going to turn around, right? And you're going to be fine. So then, Jeff, do you have the actual run course map? Did you drop it in? I think you did on the next one, maybe.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Why don't you go to, yeah, we can come back. So as you can see, you know, it goes up, it goes around the corner. You're on Red Hills Parkway. You come around and come back down again. And then you've got this funny little out and back. Okay. And then this is where the course changes from May. Instead of going back around again, you come down a very steep hill. Okay. So really something to think about is to control your energy on that hill, because if you come down that too fast, you're really going to wreck yourself for the second loop. Okay. It's going to be it's short and it's steep. And then you come back down into town, you go around the roundabout and you go around again. Okay. So things to think about on the run, you know, I don't know if you can get the words going across here, Jeff. It's going to be very hot. Okay, there you go. 3 mile climb with 600 meters at mile 2.5 and mile 9. So you're going to see it twice. All right. It's exposed and hot. There is this sharp descent twice. Just measure your effort on your climbs. Everyone is going to slow down a little bit. Okay. But the biggest thing I think to manage this run is to keep yourself cool. It's going to be super hot. It's going to be in the 90s, most likely. Okay. It's that dry desert heat. Once your core body temperature starts going up, it's really hard to bring it back down again. So every aid station, you know, water in the mouth, water on the head, water in the mouth, water on the head, right? And take your time doing that, so you're going to be able to navigate the entire run. If they've got ice down the kit, down the back, in the cap, whatever it is. All right. So particularly for people who haven't necessarily raced in this type of climate, it's not like East Coast heat, which is so humid and you know you're hot, right? It's dry, your sweat dries really quickly, and but it's just as important to keep wet, keep wet, keep the water going in. Let's see, what else about the run, Jeff, would you say?
Yeah, Skyline Drive is, I mean, I don't know what's going to be worse, that uphill or the downhill.
I think the downhill. I think downhill is going to be worse, to be honest.
Yeah, because so Skyline Drive is 9% down. It's bad. And I was there in the spring for a camp, and I mean, I went down Skyline Drive. I didn't run down. I was in a car, and I was like, oh my God, this is a crazy road. And then when I heard that they were doing like going down this road as part of the run, I thought that was a mistake. Like, I thought it was a mistake, like I heard wrong. And then I thought, oh no, this is a mistake. They should not do this. So this is like when you make this, so this Red Hills Parkway, for those of you who did it in May, this was part of the run course. I am assuming they're gonna take us down to the little tunnel. They're gonna have us run under the road and then come back up the other side and then go down.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So that won't be too bad, but once you get on Skyline Drive, I mean, even on 400, you have a bit of a respite, but then it's downhill again. I was a little bit interested to see that they have us going to the roundabout, because I don't know how that's going to work, because the bikers are coming down Main Street as well. So I mean, they usually do a very good job of keeping everybody separated, so I'm not too worried, but it is interesting.
Imagine they'll keep us in the shoulder or something like that for the run.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably have the road, separated, so for runners, and I mean, they always do. So I'm not.
Well, they did in May, and it worked out fine. I mean, I would say with regard, again, this goes back to the question of what are you trying to get out of this race when you think about that descent? You know, if you're an athlete who's going for a podium spot, then you got to make your own choice of how you're going to handle that descent, right? Because you're going to be racing the whole race. If you're going to complete the course and to have an amazing experience, think about slowing way down on that descent, like maybe even walking that descent. It's not that long, but if you do try to run it, it could really ruin the second loop for you.
And just remember, cramping occurs most frequently on descents, not going up. So you're more likely to run into trouble with cramping going down that hill than you are to be, going up the other hill. So just keep that in mind.
There's going to be some awesome leg buckling on the second loop, I think.
I think so. And it's really too bad that it's so close to the finish, because the whole sort of finish is coming downhill. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of people kind of like, running into that trouble.
Yeah.
All right. So, look, because it's a consolidated race, we don't know how big the field is. It could actually turn out to be small, because in May it was 3,500. And I have to say, it didn't feel too busy. So, the total number that they had actually registered for Worlds was around 4,000. Presumably they've had at least half of those people not be able to make it. So this actually might be a smaller race than May. All age groups are going to have a much greater diversity of athletes than usual. So you're going to see faster and slower athletes mixed together. So that means if you yourself are not a strong swimmer, that's really where you could run into trouble. And so just be aware. We know they're starting us as age groups, but we don't know what the order of age groups. Are they going to send all the men first? Are they, because they have done that in the past, where they send all the men first and then they send all the women. And a lot of the women like that because they don't worry about getting swum over by men. But there is the flip side to that, meaning that you're starting later and then you're running in the heat longer. So
that's what they did in Hawaii. They started all the women after the men went. So the downside of that was you went later. But it was actually better from a swim perspective, because you weren't getting run over by the faster male swimmers.
Because there will, I mean, as being in one of those male age groups, I freaking hate these guys. Like, I have been grabbed, I've been dunked, I've been like swum over, and I'm like, guys, I have a life. Like, this is not my life. And some of these guys, it's their life, I guess. But so I sympathize, and I'm a decent swimmer. So anyways, it's frustrating. Hopefully they'll sort that out. I would have preferred they just sent us all as a mix and just let us seat ourselves, but whatever. They're doing it the way they're doing it the best way they know how, and I defer to them, and I think they're fine. Anyways, if you're not a strong swimmer, just make sure you stay outside the buoy line. I think the thing that aggravates, decent swimmers is when you come across someone doing backstroke or breaststroke right up on the buoy line, and then they get mad when you make contact with them. And I'm like, come on, guys. Anticipate contact from behind. There are going to be fast swimmers coming from behind you. Just be calm. Don't worry about it. Most of the time, the contact is completely accidental, and people will not run over you, and they will just nicely move around you. So don't panic. It's going to be fine. The swim is it's the shortest part of your day, so don't let it ruin your day in any way. And on the bike, especially if they're mixing men and women, make sure you stay right. Because I could tell you, as a fast cyclist, if I come across somebody who's like not far to the right, it's dangerous. And so just make sure you stay to the right at all times unless you're passing. And then Juliet mentioned it, and I think it's extremely important. Controlling body temperature is going to be huge. Use those aid stations on the bike, grab a bottle of water, pour it all over yourself. A wet tri-suit is a cooling tri-suit. So make use of that during the bike ride, during the run, like Juliet said, water, ice, everything. And then for the life sport athletes, and I know for the cupcake athletes, we'll also have a get together for the life sport athletes. So we have this is the map of downtown, and I'll just show you, there's a couple of things here. So that is the roundabout with this MDOT sculpture. So there's another roundabout that's just off the screen here when you're coming into town on the bike. This is the roundabout with the sculpture. And then over here is the park where athlete check-in is, the expo. Transition is going to be on this street where the bikes will be racked after you get off, and that's where the run gear is all going to be checked in as well. And so for life sport athletes, we are planning a meetup on Friday morning, 9 a.m. Good time to bring your run gear, meet for coffee, and then afterwards you can drop your run gear off and then head out to Sand Hollow. And that's what we've got for you.
That's the show. And if you have any questions, follow up. I'm Juliet at lifesportcoaching.com. Jeff is, did you use try? What did you try dash doc? Okay, try doc at lifesportcoaching.com.
Yeah.
So please, hit us up with questions. It's no problem. Any thoughts or questions that you guys want to leave with?
Thank you for doing this.
No, it's a pleasure. We'll see you out there, Rob.
Thanks so much for letting us jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that was helpful for everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much this is a huge help. I really appreciate you letting us join this.